Lone Wolf Customs, once again, coming at you from the garage with the shifter cart project. 200cc Honda four-wheeler Yerf Dog off-road articulating creature. There it is. Of course, there it is. This is what I gotten done. Thanks to gopowersports. Check them out. Got the axle bearings, 1-inch axle bearings to build the jackshaft. Now, of course, I'm not completely done with it because I got a piece of wire holding it up here. That's basically sprocket here, sprocket here, chain, sprocket here, sprocket down there, a chain from there to there. This rotates, and to tighten it, I got to build the mechanism up here still, but unhook the wire, and to tighten it, this swings down, it pivots down there on the motor mount, so it pivots, making this distance further apart, tightening the chain, and to do this is the movement of the engine to accomplish that. So, gives you an idea of how that functions. Now, builder, fairly heavy duty, you know, it's all thick material. Technically that's a lawnmower blade down there. I know that's weird, but it was thick and it's strong. But, and of course it looks a little crooked right now. Of course the engine's not sitting square and all that other stuff, and none of the bolts are actually tight. And so, you know, it'll function. But that's pretty much what I was dealing with. Of course I didn't buy the shaft for a shaft. I bought solid bar, which, you know, has a scale on it, so it was a little too big, so I had to sand with the palm sander it down to fit in there correctly. Now, just for anybody that wants to know, the tools that are being used to do this, y'all have been watching me do this. If you haven't been watching, go back and watch the videos that I've been doing. Unfortunately, I'm sorry I don't have much actual build, but you know, these are the tools I'm using to do this. I got an old stick welder. An old Craftsman stick welder. And that's what I'm using to weld all this. Technically, the welding rods are too darn big. We're using Harbor Freight welding rods. I'm using Harbor Freight grinder with a sanding disc or a cutoff wheel, depending on what I'm doing with it. Black & Decker drill from Walmart. Cutoff wheels I'm using, Harbor Freight. Drill bits, Harbor Freight. Metal, I'm picking up at fabricating shops, you know, places that build things out of metal, and they get lots of metal, and I basically am buying their leftovers, more or less. For measurement, Harbor Freight tape measure, Harbor Freight triangle. And for the longer stuff, Harbor Freight too. All these things. Mostly it's all Harbor Freight. That's pretty much what I'm using. The sander that I used, Harbor Freight. Air compressor isn't Harbor Freight, but it's just a little dinky cheap air compressor to do what little air compressoring I need, which is mostly just filling a tire every once in a while. But you know, that's pretty much the tools I'm using here, you know. Yeah, I guess if you have nothing, it could be a kind of a big investment just buying all the Harbor Freight shit. But I ain't got no fancy tools here. I ain't got no CNC. I ain't got no plasma cutter. I ain't got no, you know, top dollar fancy equipment to put this together. And actually, this ain't even a Harbor Freight helmet. This is just your standard plain Jane, nothing special, black lens style helmet that if you flip it up you can see. If you flip it down you can't see. You know, standard, simple. And that's what I'm building this whole thing with. You know, I've got a bunch of sockets and wrenches and whatnot, but you know, all this was done simple. And you know, that's just, I'm not showing, you know, telling y'all I'm smarter than anybody else or I'm capable of doing anything other than anybody else. I'm just showing you don't need, you know, the state of the art machining equipment and tools to build stuff. You know, a welder, a way of measuring, a way of cutting the metal, and a way of, you know, putting holes in it and whatnot. You can pretty much do all sorts of stuff. Honestly, if you spend a little time watching some of the third world country top videos where they're putting shit together and they ain't got jack squat and they're doing it, you'll see real quick that you don't need a lot of fancy equipment. Now, I've got more tools than that. I've got a lathe and all that other stuff. I'm not using the lathe. I haven't found a time at this point that I've needed it.